Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us start our biology class further, and the topic we are studying here is fundamental unit of life. Now in the previous session we have studied that which unit is known as a fundamental unit of life and why it is so. So the answer for this question is that the fundamental unit or the basic functional unit of life is a cell. Cell, how we can define the cell? It is the structural and functional unit of life. Structural because all organisms are made up of cells only. The structure or the body design is basically maintained by the cell. Further, all metabolic functions or all the biochemical reactions takes place within the cell. So this is why it is known as a functional unit of life too. Now we concluded in the last session that all the living organisms, they are made up of cells. So now if all the organisms are made up of cells, then why do they not appear similar? The same thing we are going to discuss in today's session. Although these organisms, they are made up of cells only, but they differ from each other in different aspects. There are variety of organisms. These organisms, they are made up of cells, it is true, but different organisms, they have different type of cells. Further, same organism, even within that individual body, there are different type of cells. And of course, if we compare a cell of two different type of organisms within the species or in the interspecific level, even then if you compare the same cell, there would be a level of difference which has appeared. So, although all organisms are made up of cells, but still these cells are of different kinds. And these cells, they differ from one organism to the other, one species to the other. So now, what these differences are, or why, how we can say that these organisms, they are varied from each other. This session, we are going to study about such variations only. So this chart here, this flow chart is giving us a brief idea about the variety of organisms. From this we can find out that where the variations basically lie. So the variation or variety of organisms, number one, it is on the basis of number of cells the organism is made up of. That means that how many numbers are forming a single organism, or there is only a single cell which is forming a complete living organism. So the first criteria behind this variation or the variety of organisms is number of cells. These number of cells, it could be single. If it is a single, then the organism would be known as unicellular organism. Or otherwise, if it is made up of more and more number of cells. Now, the number of cells, there is no limit how many. It could be million, it could be billion, or it could be little bit more, little bit less. So, the organisms which are made up of more than one number of cells, it would be known as multicellular organism. Further, the variation is on the basis of size. The smallest size could be measured in micrometer. So, it is the smallest, we can say the smallest size. The smallest living cell is 0.1 micrometer in its dimension or its measurement. Whereas the largest, we can measure it in centimeters too. So the limit of the size is not fixed. It is not standard. It varies according to the type of the cell. It ranges from few micrometers to few centimeters. And that is what we are going to study further in detail. Besides this number and size, the variation could be observed with respect to shape of the cell. Now there is no fixed shape behind the particular cell. We can say they are having different types of shape. But if there is a single particular type of shape, then definitely that is going to be fixed for that type of cell. For example, if the shape is round, then if we quote an example here, like we can say RBC, then this RBC is always going to be round only. It could not be spindle shape, it could not be branched or something. So we are saying that there are different types of cells, there are different shapes of cells, but for a particular cell, the shape is going to be fixed. Now in this case, this shape of cell, it could be like round, it could be cylindrical, cuboidal, spindle shaped, branched, or it could be irregular also. So further, let us study in details about each and every type here. So on the basis of number of cells, we said there are two types of organisms. They are multicellular organisms and the other was unicellular organisms. So these multicellular organisms, the word itself is suggesting here. What is it suggesting? That it is comprised of two words. What the two words are here? That is multi and cellular. So multi, it means many, whereas cellular, it means cell. So these multicellular organisms means which are made up of more than one type of cells. You can see we are highlighting here, they are made up of more than one type of cell, and these numbers, which is more than one, it runs in the range of billions or trillions too. There is no smallest or highest limit. The organisms, they are made up of so many number of cells here. You can think of certain examples. These organisms which are made up of so many numbers here, they are, we can say, they are functioning in a very extraordinary fashion. Can you think of certain examples first? Example could be human being or plants, duck, or any bird we can say. It could be an example of this thing. Dogs, insects, fishes, so many organisms which you can look in your surroundings. They all are multicellular organisms. The reason is so simple. Unicellular organisms could not be observed with the help of naked eyes. They need microscope to be observed. So in general, whatever living thing we are observing in our surrounding, they are coming under the multicellular category. Now in this multicellular category, these organisms, they are following the property of division of labor. You know what is division of labor? It means the distribution of work among the different group of cells. Now what we mean by this particular thing? The organisms, they are made up of so many cells. Then there are group of cells which are present in the body all around, and those are assigned a particular function. For example, we can say like these hands. Hands, they are the limbs. So these are meant for handy type of functions. Picking up the things, then doing the various jobs physically, and so many functions we are familiar with the hands. Legs, they are meant for walking. But since these legs or the hands, you know internally how many type of cells are present? They are made up of muscles. They are made up of bones. They are supplied with the blood. Now blood is carrying the different type of nutrients. It is also having a different kind of cells. Similarly, for transport of oxygen, we need blood. But from where these oxygen is coming? It is from the lungs. So basically, in short, what we want to summarize here is that within the body, there are different group of cells which are meant for different function. For example, the muscles, these are the muscle cells, they provide contraction and relaxation, due to which we are able to move our hands. Further, bone cells, these are providing the framework to the structure of the organ or the body. Further, let us say respiratory system. The cells which are present in the respiratory system, they are meant for supplying oxygen. Similarly, there are livers. Within the liver, there are different kind of cells. So, in short, whatever groups are present at different levels, they are functioning, they are meant for a particular type of function within the body. Here we can quote like, the different cells, they will group together. And this group of similar cells which are assigned a particular function, which all together is coordinating to perform a same function or a similar function, they would be known as tissue. Now these tissue, they will comprise and they will form a structure called as organ. Then different type of organs, they will coordinate with each other and they will form a organ system. And then all the organ system within the body is going to form this complex living multicellular organisms. So this type of distribution of work within the body among the different type of cells or the tissues or the organs and the organ system, that type of property is known as division of labor. You can observe the same thing in the plants also. There, the special feature is photosynthesis. So photosynthesis, it is performed by the different type of cells over there. The cells which are containing the chloroplast. But the other parts which are not green or which are not having these chloroplasts, are they not supporting the life? Even they are supporting the life in different ways. So in short, we can say multicellular organisms are made up of many number of cells, and these cells, they are of different types, and then they are comprising the different type of tissues or the organs or so on, which will coordinate with each other to function in a designed way. Now, there are several multicellular organisms which do not show this specialization. That means they are not forming the tissue or they are not forming the organ or so on. If tissues are not formed, then definitely organ could not be formed. The basic initial unit is cell. After cells, they are forming the tissues. So in that way, in such cases, these cells are living as unorganized form. But still, we can observe the distribution of work among this colony. Now such organisms which are basically unicellular, but they are living in the colony, so we are assuming them in the multicellular category. In such cases, there is a distribution of work in different ways. For example, a special group of cell is going to do the particular function like reproduction, the other will be meant for capturing the food or so on. So thus we can say that multicellular organisms can be having the organized body or it may not have the organized body. Can you think of such kind of example here, which is multicellular but it is not showing such type of organization? That could be like fungus. You must have observed it over the surface of the bread. There are so many such type of examples. The algae, the green carpet-like structures growing in the moist area, which are autotrophic. So even that comes in the category of the multicellular. And definitely they are having different kinds of cells. Because if you compare the cell of fungus with the cell of algae, you can find out so many differences among them. Example, the fungus, it is heterotrophic. It could not synthesize its own food. Whereas the other, that is algae, it is autotrophic. So this property of making food and not making, can you think the design has to be so much different from each other? This is why we are saying that these organisms are made up of different types of cells. Now further, these multicellular organisms, although they are made up of millions of number of cells, but still there is an important fact. And what that fact is? That all these organisms, they begin their life as a single cell only. And this single cell is known as zygote or a fertilized egg. What is zygote? It is a fertilized egg. So these multicellular organisms, they are going to start their life as a zygote. How the zygote is formed? It is formed because of the fusion of a male and a female gamete. That is a sperm and the ovum. So these cells, they unite, they fuses with each other either inside the host body, a female body, or outside the female body. So male will provide the sperm, female will provide the egg, and these two, they will fuse with each other. This fusion is known as fertilized egg. After that, these fertilized egg cells, they will start multiplying. The cell division will take place, and therefore there are so many number of cells would be formed. After that, these so many cells, they will start differentiating into different type of tissues or the organs or the organ system. And when this development or the differentiation is over, then the organism, a mature organism would be produced. So this is why we are saying that these multicellular organisms, although they are made up of many number of cells, but still they begin their life as a single cell only. This is very important fact of the multicellular organisms. Now further, on the basis of number of cells, there is another category too. What is that? It is unicellular organisms. So what these unicellular organisms mean? These unicellular, again we can show that it is made up of two parts, uni and cellular. Uni means one, and cellular, it is actually resembling the word cell. Those organisms which are made up of single cell only, they are known as unicellular organisms. So in short, now we can just think of this thing, that in the case of multicellular organisms, when there was so many number of cells and they were performing different functions, then how a single cell can function as a living organism? The reason is because these single cells, they have a capacity to perform all the life-sustaining functions. Now, this actually makes us to think that how it is possible, or what that special thing is happening here that is making this single cell to function as a living organism. So, what these life-sustaining functions are? Can you think of certain activities or certain functions which is essential for the life? It could be like, that is, we can take the examples here. For example, like nutrition. What is nutrition? Do you know this thing? Nutrition is a process by which we obtain food or the organism can synthesize the food. So, food is necessary thing which is required for the organism. So, how these cells are actually taking it? It is with the help of diffusion or various type of processes. So, they can digest it within the vacuoles or the special sac-like structures. The other could be like excretion. That means release of waste from the body. They can do this particular function too. The other process which can come under this particular category will be transportation or circulation of the food material. So even that could be done within the cell over there. Reproduction. They can reproduce by simple division method. And there are many more functions that are actually performed by these living organisms. So now we can think that which organism would be known as a unicellular organism? Those who can actually perform all these functions themselves. Those which can perform all these life-sustaining functions so as to support life. Those would be known as unicellular organisms. Can you think of certain examples? Like bacteria, plasmodium, blue-green algae, euglena, amoeba, paramecium, and the list is endless. There are so many unicellular organisms. Here we have shown the picture of amoeba, paramecium, and euglena. These amoeba and paramecium, they are coming under the category known as protozoa. Now these protozoan type of organisms, they are actually unicellular eukaryotic cells and they perform heterotrophic type of nutrition. That means they cannot synthesize food for themselves. Rather, they have to capture it from outside. Now, how these organisms are doing this function? For example, amoeba, it is having a flexible type of membrane, and these extensions are known as pseudopodia. Because of this flexibility, they can extend these particular ends and then they can capture the food into this particular space. And thus they are engulfing it, and inside there are the enzymes which will help in the digestion of these particular materials. Similarly, paramecium. At this point there is a pore, a mouth pore. From that the food is captured and taken into the buccal cavity. And further it is transformed inside in a vacuole and there it is digested, and the digested food material is supplied to different parts of its cell. This is how they can capture the food independently and they can digest it within the vacuole. Now there are certain organisms in which simple diffusion can also support such type of function. Besides euglena, even this euglena is a unicellular organism and it is eukaryotic in nature. But the difference between the amoeba or paramecium and euglena is that this euglena is showing the heterotrophic mode of nutrition initially. But in case if food is not present in its surrounding, then they can synthesize food for itself. They are provided with a chloroplast also. So in the absence of food in its surrounding, they can synthesize their own food. And so these organisms can survive as the independent living organisms. This is the reason they are called as unicellular organisms. Now there are certain unicellular organisms which are residing inside the host body. Now what you are seeing here is, you are looking these diagrams, they are living in the water. They are aquatic organisms. And those which are living inside the host body, they are known as parasites. The example given here is plasmodium. It is a parasite, malarial parasite. It is commonly known as malarial parasite. This malarial parasite is present, it is found in the saliva of mosquito, female mosquito, Anopheles species. Now in this case, when such type of mosquito, they bite the human being transported to the next host body. So this is actually found in two host bodies. They complete their life cycle residing inside two different host bodies. One is mosquito, the another one is human being. So when they go there, they will multiply and they will cause the malaria. But since it is able to multiply itself, so it is known as a unicellular organism. It can use the digested food material present over there in the host body. So by using others' simplified form of food material, they can survive, they can obtain energy, they can respire, and so on. Many functions could be performed independently. Further, you can see another example, that is blue-green algae. Now algae, if we compare only algae, then it is eukaryotic and it is autotrophic in nature. But When we are giving the example of this blue-green algae, then mind it, this blue-green algae is not the original eukaryotic autotrophic algae. Rather, this blue-green algae is a prokaryotic type of organism. Originally, it is a bacteria, and they are prokaryotic in nature, which can synthesize their own food. What do you mean by prokaryotic? In which the nucleus is not well developed. So, such organisms, they are showing the variation in the type of its structure. You can see the shape is totally different. You can see how they vary in terms of its function too. In number, we have already said they are unicellular. But size and the function is also different. Thus, we say that different type of organisms contain different type of cells. Now further, we will study about how they vary with respect to its size and shape. And that we will continue in the next session. Till then, goodbye. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.